The thunderclap ripped through the silence like a gunshot, shattering the fragile peace I'd clawed my way into out here in the Wyoming backcountry. Rain hammered the tent roof in relentless sheets, turning the ground into a sucking mud pit that threatened to swallow my Jeep whole. And then, through the storm's roar, I heard it, a low, gravelly voice calling my name from the darkness, as if the wilderness itself had decided to claim me. I bolted upright, heart slamming against my ribs, fumbling for the flashlight that had rolled into the corner like a coward. William Hargrove, city boy turned reluctant survivalist. That's me, 32 years old, fresh off a brutal divorce from a life I never wanted. And now this, a voice in the night that sounded too real to be thunder, too haunted to be wind. William, you in there? Name's James, saw your fire earlier. Mind if I hunker down? I froze, beam of light slicing through the unzipped flap. There he stood, a silhouette carved from the storm. Broad shoulders hunched under a slicker that did nothing to hide the lean, powerful lines of a man who'd wrestled more than metaphors with the wild. Water streamed from the brim of his Stetson, carving rivers down a face weathered beyond his years, maybe 28, with sharp cheekbones, a jaw like chiseled granite, and eyes the color of sagebrush after rain, piercing even in the chaos. A cowboy, straight out of some half-forgotten Marlboro ad, but real, dripping, and staring at me like I was the only dry spot left in hell. Jesus, I muttered, the word half prayer, half curse, as I scrambled to shove my sleeping bag aside. Get in before you drown us both. He ducked inside with a grace that belied his size, 6'2" of coiled muscle folding into the cramped space like he owned it. The air thickened instantly, wet leather, pine sap, and something earthier, like sun-baked soil and unspoken secrets. He shook out his hat, sending droplets flying, and offered a hand calloused from reins and ropes. James Callahan. Ranch hand up at the Double Bar Y, about 10 miles east. Trail got washed out. Figured your light was a beacon. Oh, you won. I took his hand, the grip firm and warm, a jolt that lingered long after he let go. William. Just passing through. Alone. The last word hung heavy, a confession I hadn't meant to voice. Alone was why I'd come here. To lick wounds from a marriage that ended in screams and shattered glass. To prove I could stand on my own without the city's fluorescent lies. Chicago had chewed me up, corporate drone by day, ghost in a one-bedroom by night, realizing too late that loving a woman who saw me as a phase wasn't love at all. Out here, under endless sky, I thought I'd find silence. Instead, fate delivered a storm and a stranger who smelled like redemption. James peeled off his slicker, revealing a faded chambray shirt clinging to his chest like a second skin, buttons straining over pecs honed by saddle and sweat. He glanced around my setup, minimalist, urban escape style, a cooler of craft beers, a dog-eared copy of Kerouac, and a lantern casting shadows that danced like accusations. Fancy digs for a solo trip, he drawled. That drawl pure High Plains poetry, vowels stretched like barbed wire under the sun. You military? Look like you could be. Nah. Architect. Or was. I rummaged for a spare blanket, avoiding his eyes, those eyes that seemed to see through the rain to the cracks in my soul. Burned out. Needed. This. I waved vaguely at the tent walls buckling under the onslaught. He nodded, settling cross-legged with a sigh that carried the weight of miles. I get it. World's a grind. Out here, though, it's honest. Breaks you down, builds you back. His fingers drummed on his knee, scarred knuckles telling stories of falls and fights. We talked then, voices low over the storm's symphony, about nothing and everything. He spun yarns of mustangs breaking free on the range, of sunrises that painted the Tetons gold. I confessed the ache of blueprints that boxed in dreams. Laughter crept in, tentative at first, then full-throated, warming the chill. By midnight, the rain eased to a whisper, and sleep tugged at us like an old friend. "Crash here," I said, pointing to the empty half of the tent. "Floor's lava otherwise," he chuckled, that sound rumbling deep, and stripped to his undershirt. Ink-black tattoos snaking up arms like rivers of ink. A lone wolf on one bicep, a compass rose on the other, pointing nowhere and everywhere. I lay there, back turned, pulse a drumbeat, wondering if the thunder had stirred something wilder inside me. Dawn broke bloody-fingered over the horizon, painting the valley in hues of rust and rose. James stirred first, brewing coffee on my camp stove like he'd done it 1,000 times, the aroma curling through the mist like a lover's promise. "Rise and shine, city slicker," he called, handing me a tin mug steaming with black gold. His hair was tousled, hat tipped back, and in the light, he was devastating, freckles dusting his nose, a scar hooking his lip from some boyhood brawl. We broke camp slow, savoring the quiet. My Jeep grumbled to life, but he waved it off. "Walk with me to the ridge." Shortcut to my truck. The trail wound up through aspen groves, leaves shivering gold in the breeze, and we fell into step, shoulders brushing accidental on purpose. He asked about my ink, a subtle pride flag on my wrist, faded from years of hiding, and I braced for the pivot, the awkward fade. But James just traced it with a thumb, light as breath. "My brother's got one like that," said it saved him. His voice softened, eyes distant. Me? I'm still figuring the map. At the ridge, his battered Ford waited like a faithful dog, dust-caked and proud. He leaned against the hood, arms crossed, that easy confidence masking something sharper. Headed back to the ranch. "But if you're not in a rush, swing by tonight. Cookout. Beers. No strings." The invitation hung, electric, and I felt it, the pull, gravitational, inevitable. I drove away with the windows down, wind whipping secrets from my chest. Chicago felt like a dream, this place a fever. By dusk, I was rumbling up a gravel drive to the double-bar Y, a sprawl of weathered barns and corrals under a sky bruised purple. James met me at the gate, jeans dusty from the day's ride, a grin splitting his face like sunrise. "Knew you'd come." The cookout was small, a few hands around a fire pit, guitars strumming Johnny Cash covers, stars wheeling overhead like they'd conspired just for us. James pulled me aside to the barn's shadow, passing a flask of bourbon that burned sweet. "Tell me something true," he murmured, close enough I could count the lashes framing those sage eyes. "I came out here to disappear," I said, the words tumbling free. "But meeting you feels like showing up." His hand found my jaw, thumb grazing stubble, and then his mouth was on mine, slow, searing, tasting of smoke and salt. The world narrowed to that kiss, tentative exploration turning fierce, hands mapping unfamiliar terrain with reverence. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed, the ranch fading to a hum. That night, in his bunkhouse room, a Spartan nest of flannel sheets and rodeo ribbons, he undressed me like unwrapping a gift he'd waited lifetimes for. Bodies tangled in the lamplight, skin on skin, every touch a revelation. James was fire and earth. Calloused palms tracing my ribs, lips whispering praises against my throat. Beautiful, he breathed, as if I'd hung the moon. We moved together, urgent yet tender, chasing release in rhythms older than the plains. Afterward, sated and spent, he held me close, heartbeat sinking like thunder to rain. Days blurred into a haze of stolen moments. Mornings, I'd sketch ranch layouts on napkins, dreaming of sustainable builds that honored the land. He'd watch, head tilted, offering insights from a lifetime roped to it. Afternoons, we'd ride out on his gelding, Sage, a sorrel beast with a gait like poetry, up switchbacks to overlooks where eagles wheeled. Evenings by the fire, stories unfolding, my fractured family, the closet I'd cracked open at 25. A father who preached fire and brimstone, a mother gone too soon, leaving him to navigate desire in shadows. You're different, he said one twilight, as we lay in the bed of his truck. Blankets rumpled, stars our ceiling. See the world like it's waiting to be fixed. Me, I just try not to break it more. I traced the wolf tattoo, fingers lingering. What's the story there? He tensed, then exhaled. Pack I lost. Brother came out senior year, got run out of town. I didn't fight hard enough. Promised myself I'd be braver next time. His eyes met mine, vulnerable, vast. This is next time. Love crept in unannounced, rooting deep as canyon oaks. We'd argue over small things. My impatience with barbed wire, his wariness of city poisons. But makeup was always wildfire. Pressed against hay bales, breaths mingling in the loft. Slow dances in the kitchen to Merle Haggard on vinyl, his hat tipping low. Yet shadows gathered. Whispers from the hands. Callahan's got a girl in Casper. A letter I glimpsed. Perfumed envelope addressed in elegant script. Darling James, can't wait for the wedding. My gut twisted, but I shoved it down. Trust, I told myself. This is real. The storm broke on a Friday, heat lightning forking the sky. We'd planned a backcountry camp, echo of our meeting, full circle. But as we packed, his phone buzzed. A call from the foreman, voice tinny with urgency. Boss man's back early. Wants you in the office. Now, James' face shuddered, that easy grin fracturing. Go ahead without me. I'll catch up, kiss goodbye, lingering, laced with unspoken dread. I waited at the trailhead till dusk, fire crackling unanswered. Headlights pierced the dark. Not his truck, but a sleek SUV, disgorging a woman in pearls and boots. Elena, the foreman's daughter, heiress to half the county. She spotted me, smile sharp as thorns. You're the architect, right? James mentioned. Sweet of him to play tour guide. Play. The word festered. He arrived late, reeking of whiskey and regret, collapsing by the fire without a word. Pressed, gentle at first. What happened? Family shit. Evasive, eyes on flames. Elena, silence. Then, it's complicated. Dawn brought truth, ugly as eroded earth. Over coffee gone cold, he confessed not betrayal of body, but of promise. Arranged union, her father's empire hinging on it. Love her like a sister, he rasped. But you, God, William, you're the spark I didn't know I was missing. Rage bloomed, hot and holy. Complicated? That's your line for lying. I stood, fists clenched. I bared my soul. James. You let me think. I was gonna end it. He surged up, grabbing my arms. Tonight. Tell 'em all to go to hell. But Pa cornered me, threatened the ranch, my job, everything we've built. Tears tracked his dust-streaked cheeks. I ain't brave like you. Not yet. The fight spilled out, words like lashing rain, accusations cracking like whips. I accused him of cowardice, of using me as escape. He hurled back my city fragility, my running instead of fighting. We circled the fire, shadows warring, until exhaustion felled us. Backs turned, silence a chasm. Morning light found us broken, but not beyond mending. He reached across the divide, hand trembling. Don't go. Let me fix this. I pulled away, heart a bruise. Fixing means choosing. James. Me or the lie. Back at the ranch, the climax erupted. Elena's engagement party. Lanterns strung like nooses, folks in Stetsons toasting futures. James cornered me in the barn, eyes wild. I told her. Told Pa. It's over. Relief warred with doubt. And lost the job. The roof over my head. He laughed, bitter. But gained you. Before I could answer. Shouts. Pa Callahan. Bull of a man. Storming in with fists and fury. You queer filth. Ruining my boy. The punch landed, splitting James' lip. Blood blooming copper on his shirt. I lunged, world red. Touch him again. Hands pulled us apart. Chaos reigning. Elena, pale but steady, stepped forward. Let him go, Daddy. It's 2025, not 1950. James deserves his truth. The old man deflated, bluster crumbling to grief. This land. It's all I know. James straightened, bloodied but unbroken, arm around me. Then learn, Pa. Or lose me. We left that night, Jeep loaded with his duffel and dreams. Drove east to Laramie, where I had contacts, a firm hungry for green architects, ranches ripe for redesign. He enrolled in community college, agribusiness with a sustainability twist. I sketched plans for eco-lodges that bridged wild and worn. Months wove us tighter. Lazy Sundays mending fences, his head on my lap as I read aloud from Whitman. Betrayal scar faded to lesson. Love demands courage, not perfection. One evening, under that same ridge, he knelt with a ring, simple silver, etched with a compass rose, pointing true north. You, tears came, mine this time. Yes, the wedding was small. Aspen Grove, sage as ring-bearer, Elena as witness, her smile genuine. Vows exchanged with the Tetons as altar, promising not perfection, but presence. Years on, the double bar Y thrives under new stewards. Pa mellowed, visiting grandkids who chase fireflies in our yard. James and I built a life. Hybrid cabin with solar panels and a wraparound porch, where we rock in chairs, hands entwined, watching storms roll in. Nothing's ever the same after a cowboy claims your heart. But damn if it isn't worth the thunder. The first winter hit like a freight train, snow piling drifts against our cabin walls that blocked the door some mornings, forcing James to shovel us out with a grin and a curse. Welcome to the real Wyoming, darlin', he'd say, breath fogging the air as he hauled me out for a kiss that tasted of frost and forever. It was our first holiday season together, and I'd insisted on dragging a scraggly pine from the woods, decking it with ornaments scavenged from thrift shops in Laramie. Faded glass baubles and a cowboy boot lariat I'd whittled myself. James watched me fuss, leaning in door frames with that half-smile that still unraveled me, arms crossed over the thermal that hugged his frame like it knew secrets. "You turnin' me into one of those Hallmark saps?" he teased. But his eyes softened when I hung the star, a tin cutout etched with our initials, W and J, intertwined like vines. "Nah," I shot back, stringing lights that flickered gold against the logs. "Just making sure you know this is home. Home." The word had terrified me once, back in Chicago's concrete cage, where walls echoed with arguments and absence. Now, it wrapped around us warm as the wood stove's glow, crackling with pine knots James chopped himself. We hosted Elena for Christmas Eve, her now fiancé, a soft-spoken vet from Jackson, in tow. The table groaned under venison roast I'd brined with juniper, mashed potatoes whipped creamy, and James' pecan pie, inherited from his ma's recipe, gooey sweet and laced with bourbon. Laughter flowed freer than the mulled wine. Stories of Pa's latest grumble about damn wind turbines. Elena's clinic tales of calving season gone sideways. Under the table, James' boot nudged mine, a Morse code of I love you that needed no translation. Later, as snow whispered outside, Elena pulled me aside by the sink, suds bubbling. "He glows now, Will." Like he swallowed the sun. Her hug was fierce, sisterly. "Thank you for fighting for him. For us." Guilt flickered. Had I fought enough? The betrayal lingered in quiet moments, a ghost in the rear view. But James chased it away nightly, bodies entwining in the loft bed we'd built from reclaimed barnwood. His whispers against my neck. "You're my anchor, city boy. Don't you forget." Spring thawed us into motion. My firm landed the bid for a heritage preserve, reviving old homesteads into artist retreats, blending James' ranch know-how with my designs. We'd survey sites on horseback, Sage plodding steady while we debated adobe versus timber frames, his laugh booming when I griped about chaps chafing. "Toughens the soul," he'd quip, then lean back to steal a kiss that left me dizzy, the world tilting like a poorly staked foundation. One afternoon, scouting a meadow laced with wild iris, we dismounted for lunch, sandwiches wrapped in wax paper, thermos of coffee strong as regret. James spread a blanket, pulling me down with him, grass tickling our skin. "Remember that first storm?" he murmured, fingers lacing mine. "Thought I'd scared you off for good." "You did," I admitted, propping on an elbow to trace his jaw. "But something pulled me back." "You?" "Mostly. That damn hat," he chuckled, tugging it low over my eyes. Play turned heated, hands roaming under shirts, breaths quickening in the sun-dappled quiet. We made love there, slow and unhurried, earth cradling us as if the land itself approved. Afterward, sated, we lay tangled, clouds drifting lazy overhead. "Want kids someday?" he asked, voice tentative, like testing thin ice. The question blindsided. "Yeah. Surrogate, maybe. Or adoption. Teach 'em to ride before they walk." I pictured it. Tiny boots on Sage's flanks, laughter echoing in the corral. His smile bloomed slow. "Good. 'Cause I been thinkin', life's too short for half measures." Summer scorched the plains gold, hay baling under skies so blue they bruised. James freelanced for neighboring spreads, mending fences literal and figurative, visiting Pa weekly, beers on the porch turning to talks of legacy, not loss. "He's comin' around," James reported one night, toweling off after a shower, droplets tracing the V of his hips. Asked about you. Said you're a good influence. High praise from a mule-headed old coot. I pulled him close, towel dropping forgotten. Proud of you. Our rhythm was familiar now, bodies knowing each other's cadence like a well-worn trail. But in the afterglow, doubts surfaced, mine, unbidden. You regret it? Leaving the double bar. He propped up. I serious. Every day I wake next to you? Nah. That's the win. Fall painted the aspen's flame, and with it came the first real test. My ex, Marcus, the husband who'd shattered me, emailed out of the blue. Heard you're out west. Congrats on the new life. Coffee if I'm in Denver. Attached. A photo of him beaming with a new partner. Salt in old wounds. I deleted it, but the poison seeped. That night, over dinner, chili simmering with chunks of elk, I snapped at James over nothing, a spilled napkin igniting fuse. What's eating you? He demanded, spoon clattering. Ghosts, I muttered. Past bullshit, he softened, drawing me to the couch. Talk, Will. We're in this trench together. So I did, pouring out the marriage's rot. The gaslighting, the coming out that felt like surrender. James listened, hand steady on my knee, then pulled me into his chest. He was blind. I'm seeing clear. His kiss was balm, deep and deliberate, leading us upstairs where he worshipped me with hands and mouth until doubts dissolved in moans. Winter circled back, but we were sturdier now, roots delving deeper. Elena announced her pregnancy, a niece or nephew for our future brood, and we threw a baby shower in the barn, strung with lights and laughter. Pa showed, awkward in khakis, gifting a hand-tooled saddle that smelled of leather and olive branch. For when y'all, you know, he grumbled, avoiding eyes. James hugged him fierce, and I saw the boy he'd been, finally free. One blizzard night, power out, we huddled by candlelight, stories weaving through the howl. James confessed his own ghost, a college fling, ended in shame when rumors reached the ranch. Hid after that. Till you, I cupped his face. No more hiding. Ever. Spring brought bloom. My preserve project broke ground. Headlines in the Casper Star-Tribune praising the queer couple reimagining the West. Backlash trickled, letters to the editor, sideways glares at the feed store, but we stood tall, James' hand in mine at town halls, voicing visions of inclusive land. Summer's heat wave tested us anew. A wildfire licked the ridges, smoke choking the valley, forcing evacuations. We loaded the Jeep, Sage trailered behind, hearts pounding as flames crowned the peaks. At the fairgrounds shelter, caught side by side, James whispered plans. If we lose the cabin, we rebuild. Bigger. Better. Rain gods smiled, dousing the blaze by dawn. Returning, ash blanketed our world, but the cabin stood, singed but sentient. We cleared debris together, sweat-streaked and swearing, ending in the creek, naked, splashing like kids, then making love on the bank till stars pricked the smoke-hazed sky. Fall harvest found us adopting. A scrappy mutt named Thunder, all paws and personality, who herded our heels like cattle. Practice run, James joked, but his eyes shone serious when we talked surrogacy agencies. Dreaming names, Elias for his ma, Harper for the windswept hills. Winter solstice, under that first pine. Now a fixture in our living room, we exchanged vows anew, rings glinting in firelight. To thunder and cowboys, I toasted. To forever, he echoed. Life's tempests come, but we'd learned. Love isn't absence of storm, but dancing in the downpour. The adoption papers arrived on a Tuesday in early spring, crisp as new snow, stamped with the state seal like a benediction. James found them in the mailbox, whooping loud enough to scatter the chickens we'd added to our menagerie. Feathered alarm clocks that strutted the yard like they owned the deed. "Will, get your fine ass out here," his voice carried on the breeze, laced with that boyish joy that still floored me, even after years of mornings tangled in sheets and coffee. I emerged from the barn, blueprints rolled under arm, final tweaks to a community center for Laramie's youth, a safe space with rainbow murals and open mic nights. Thunder bounded ahead, tail a blur, as James thrust the envelope at me, grin splitting wide. "It's official. Elias James Hargrove Callahan. Ours." We tore into it right there, on the porch steps worn smooth by our boots, reading clauses and signatures till tears blurred ink. Elias, 5 years old, orphaned in a car wreck that stole his folks, fostered through Elena's clinic network. Photos enclosed. A moppet with James' freckles and my solemn stare, clutching a stuffed horse in a too big flannel. "Looks like trouble," I murmured, throat tight. "Looks like family." James pulled me up, spinning us in a waltz that ended in laughter and a kiss salty with emotion. That night, we drove to Casper, picking him up from the agency, a whirlwind of small hands and wide eyes, backpack slung over one shoulder. "This is home, kiddo," James said, buckling him in, voice steady as reined-in Mustang. Elias nodded mute, thumb in mouth, but his grip on my finger was iron. The first weeks were a rodeo. Nightmares jolting him upright at 3 a.m., screams echoing off logs till we piled into his race car bed, stories of far-off stars lulling him back. James took the night shifts, crooning low tunes his ma sang, Red River Valley in that gravel tenor, while I handled dawns, pancakes stacked high with blueberries, teaching him to flip 'em without sticking. "Like this? See? Wrist snap." His giggles bubbled, tentative then torrent. School started in fall, a brick elementary with a flagpole creaking in wind. Drop-offs twisted my gut, tiny figure dwarfed by backpacks, waving brave from the gate. PTA meetings brought stares, whispers, "That's the gay dads with the ranch." James fielded 'em with charm, arm slung casual over my chair. "Yup. And damn good at pancakes." Elias thrived, though art class finger paints of cowboys under rainbows, playground tales of Thunder's escapades. But cracks spidered. Elias' questions came sharp as barbed wire. "Why don't I got a mommy like Tommy?" Over dinner one night, fork paused mid-air, eyes on his plate. James and I exchanged glances, rehearsed answers faltering. "Families come in all shapes, buddy," I started, heart hammering. "Yours has 2 dads who love you to the Tetons and back." He chewed that. Then, "Can we get one anyway?" Laughter broke tension, but doubt lingered. Therapy sessions followed, a kind-eyed counselor in town, sessions in a quilted office smelling of chamomile. Elias drew his grief. Jagged lines for the crash, soft curves for us. "You're my anchors," he said once, crayons clutched. We cried after, in the truck, James' head on the wheel. "We're doing right by him. Yeah, damn straight." I kissed his temple, tasting salt. Summer brought reprieve. Road trip south to Yellowstone, tent pitched by geysers that erupted like applause. Elias hooped at Old Faithful, splashing in geothermal pools till pruny, while James and I stole moments, hands linked over campfire, whispers of pride in the dark. He's ours, James murmured one night. Elias snoring zipped in his bag. Miracle. Back home. Harvest fair called. Rides whirling under colored lights. Cotton candy sticking chins. Elias begged for the bucking bronco, clinging fierce as it spun. James lifted him down, beaming. Tough as nails. That one. Then, the call? Pa Callahan. Voice cracking over line. Hearts given out. Come say goodbyes. We loaded up at dawn. Elias buckled quiet, sensing storm. The double bar Y loomed unchanged. Windmill creaking. Corrals empty now under Elena's steady hand. Pa lay in the big house bed. Tubes snaking. Eyes milky but sharp. Boys, he beckoned, frail hand waving. James knelt, taking it, shoulders shaking. Pa. We. Hush. The old man's gaze flicked to me. You. Architect. Gave my boy spine. For that. Thanks. To Elias, grandson. Ride hard. Love soft. He pressed a silver spur into the boy's palm. Engraved J.C. Elias clutched it. We stayed weeks. Hospice rhythm. Stories by the fire. James mending final fences with his dad. Apologies traded like heirlooms. Pa passed gentle. Under harvest moon. James holding vigil till dawn. Funeral was simple. Graveside under cottonwoods. Eulogy James delivered steady. He taught me land's legacy is heart, not hate. Grief hollowed us, but Elias filled cracks. Baking Pa's biscuits lopsided, taping drawings to the stone. For Grandpa Jack, he'd say, lisp turning J to CH. Winter wrapped gentle, holidays hushed but holy. We strung lights on the cabin, Elias hands helping, telling tales of Pa's wild youth. New Year's, under stars, James pulled me aside. Another, meaning baby. Surrogacy journey launched. Clinics in Denver. Paperwork mountains. Hopes fragile as eggs. Harper arrived screaming in June. A girl with my curls and James' cry. Tiny fists flailing like she'd fight the world already. Hospital room blurred with tears. Elias peering awed. She's real small. Like you once, James whispered, cradling her as if glass. Parenthood doubled down. Nights tag-teaming feeds. Days corralling chaos. Elias teaching Harper to gallop on all fours. Thunder herding them both. My firm boomed. Commissions for queer-friendly builds stacking. But home anchored. Dinners where Elias recited poems. Harper cooed at spoons. Conflict brewed subtle. James' wanderlust flickered. Old trails calling. Miss Ridin' endless. He confessed one dusk. Saddling Sage for a solo loop. Not leavin'. Just breathin'. I nodded, swallowing jealousy. Go. We'll hold the fort. He returned sunset flushed, pulling me to the barn. Missed you something fierce, lovemaking there. Hay-scented and urgent, reaffirming bonds. Fall brought Elias' first crush. A classmate, shy Theo with braids and braces. Playground notes passed, cheeks blushing. He likes my drawings, Elias confided. Fidgety. James knelt eye level. That's special. Treat it gentle, like a young colt. Heart to heart followed. Our story, age-appropriated. Two dads who found each other in storm. Built love brick by brick. Love's brave, I added. No matter who. Winter's gale tested anew. Harper's fever spiked. Air dashed through snow. Monitors beeping dread. James paced. I held her tiny hand. Elias praying with stuffed horse. Crisis passed, flew, not fate, and we emerged tighter, valuing breaths. Spring renewal. Family photo under the aspen, for faces framed in wildflowers. Agency called another placement, we weighed, hearts full yet open. Room for more, James decided. Life's a prairie, vast, unpredictable, blooming defiant. We'd weathered, grown, roots entwined, reaching ever skyward. Elias hit 12 like a Mustang breaking stride, legs lengthening overnight, voice cracking mid-sentence, questions sharpening to blades. Our boy, once thumb-sucking sprite, now pored over vet manuals borrowed from Elena's shelf, sketching prosthetics for injured wildlife with a focus that mirrored James' quiet intensity. "Wanna fix what's broke," he'd say, pencil flying, oblivious to how those words echoed his father's unspoken mantra. Harper, the 6, was wildfire incarnate, curls wild as Wyoming wind, climbing corral fences to rescue chickens, her laughter a siren call that drew neighbors over the ridge. Mornings devolved to chaos, Elias corralling siblings for breakfast while James flipped eggs one-handed, me sketching at the island, coffee going cold. "Dad, James, pass the syrup," Harper bossed, syrup sticky fingers waving. We'd collapse in giggles, the table a battlefield of plates and love. But adolescence brewed storms. Elias' school reports glowed, straight A's, science fair ribbons, but whispers followed, freaky family, from kids whose dads hunted with Pa's old crew. One afternoon, he slammed home, lips split, ice thunderous. "Fight with Brody," said. "You're not real dads. Perverts." James' jaw clenched, knuckles white on the counter. "He touch you." "Nah." Just words. But Elias' shrug cracked, tears spilling. I pulled him close, tasting copper on his lip. "Words hurt worse sometimes. But truth, we're your dads. Blood or choice, same fierce." James paced, then knelt. "Proud of you, son, for telling us." Tomorrow, we talk to the principal. Together, meeting was tense. Principal's office stuffy with regret, Brody's folks red-faced and rumbling. "Boys will be boys," they muttered. James leaned forward, voice steel-wrapped calm. "My boy's no boy to be broke. Apologize, or we escalate." Hands shaken, promises extracted, assembly on respect, counseling for Brody. Elias walked taller after, confiding later, "Felt like a team." Summer swelled with expansion. Our surrogate journey bore fruit again. Twins, boy and girl, do winter. Agency matches thrilled. But logistics loomed, nursery addition to the cabin. My firm juggling deadlines. James fretted nights, tracing my temple as I fretted back. "We'll manage," he'd murmur, lips brushing ear. Like always, ranch life deepened. We leased acreage for glamping pods. My designs, Ecolux with star roofs and composting loose, drawing city couples hungry for unplug. James guided trail rides, his stories spinning magic. Elias assisting with reins, Harper charming guests with wildflower crowns. Revenue flowed, funding scholarships for queer youth in STEM, a quiet nod to battles won. Fall's chill brought Pa's old truck to us, Elena gifting it, keys jingling. He'd want Elias driving it first. Lessons commenced, dusty back roads, James in passenger seat barking, "Ease off the clutch." Elias grinding gears till smooth. Harper cheered from the porch, pom-poms fashioned from sock scraps. "Go, big bro." Then, the letter from Marcus, My ex, postmarked Chicago. Remarrying. Thought you'd want to know. Wishing you well with. The family. Attached. Wedding invite. A barb disguised as olive branch. Doubt slithered. Had I dragged James into this patchwork? Nights. I tossed. Ghosts mocking. James sensed. Cornering me in the barn at dawn. Spill. Will. You're miles away. Words tumbled. Insecurities. Old scars flaring. He cupped my face. Thumbs wiping doubt. That man's echo. I'm your now. Our chaos? Its symphony. He kissed me then. Deep and devouring. Hands mapping familiar paths till we slumped against stalls. Breaths ragged. Renewed. Winter birthed the twins. Rowan and Sage. Names drawn from earth and horse. Tiny miracles swaddled in flannel. Cries harmonizing. Hospital vigil stretched. Elias reading to them from Where the Red Fern Grows. Harper singing off-key lullabies. Homecoming parade. Family convoy. Horns honking. Settling into bassinet brigade. Sleep fragmented. But joy patched it. Middle of night tag teams. James rocking Rowan while I nurse Sage, bottles. Thank God. Elias brewing cocoa for dawn watches. Harper declared herself boss babysitter. Tiaras for all. Spring's thaw mirrored ours. Community center ribbon cut. Rainbow banners fluttering. Elias emceeing with poise beyond years. This place? For kids like me seen. Safe. Applause thundered. James' arm around me. Pride swelling. But conflict crested subtle. James' offer from a big outfit in Montana, head wrangler. Fat salary. Legacy land. Temptin'. He admitted over beers by the fire. Twins dozing in swings. But uprootin' them? Nah. I squeezed his knee. Proud either way. But here, our roots run deep. He nodded, firelight gilding his profile. Then we grow stronger. Summer scorched. Wildfires flirting edges again. Evac drills practiced. Bags packed. But this time, community rallied. Neighbors with trailers. Elena's clinic as hub. Flames veered. Rain blessing. Leaving us breathless but bonded. Fall equinox. Elias birthday bash. Bonfire roaring. Friends tumbling in hay bales. Theo now braces free. Braids longer, arriving shy with a sketchbook gift. For your inventions, he mumbled. Blush blooming. Elias' grin lit brighter than sparks. Winter wove close. Holidays with Elena's clan. Pa's spur on the tree as ornament. Twins' first snow. Chubby cheeks frosted. Sleds whipping downhill. Laughter echoing canyons. Lives we've tightened. Threads of trial and triumph. Love the loom. We'd chosen this tapestry. Vibrant and vast. Elias turned 16 under a sky-streaked comet-tail pink. The fairgrounds pulsing with midway lights and funnel cake grease. He'd outgrown the bucking bronco for dirt bikes now. Tearing ovals with Theo shotgun. Engines growling like adolescent hearts. James and I watched from the bleachers. Hands linked casual. Harper wedged between with cotton candy webs in her hair. 10 going on terror. Whispering plots to borrow the prize pig. The twins, 4 and feral, chased fireflies in the dusk. Their giggles a counterpoint to the announcer's drawl. Look at him go, James murmured, pride roughening his voice. Elias had filled out, broad like his dad, thoughtful like me. Navigating high school with a queer alliance club he'd co-founded. Posters papering halls. Love's land. No trespass. Crushes bloomed public now. Theo official. Handholds in corridors. Parents nodding approval at barbecues. but velocity bred friction. College scouts circled. Cornell for Elias bioengineering dreams. Scholarships thick as snow. East Coast. James fretted post-race. Hugging our boy sweat slick. That's half a country away. Elias shrugged. Helmet dangling. Won't forget the ranch. That. Promise. Harper's tempests brewed too. Tween sass sharpening. Slammed doors over curfews. You don't get it. Hurled like grenades. One night, storming out after a phone spat. Friends say we're weird. 2 dads and all these babies. She vanished into the barn. We found her curried up with thunder. Tears tracking dust. Sorry. Just mad at everything. James sat beside. Arm open. World's weird. Kid. We make it ours. I joined. Weaving family lore. Storms weathered. Loves claimed. She softened. Hugging fierce. Love you guys. Even when you're lame. Twins amplified anarchy. Rowan scaling cabinets for cookies. Sage sketching murals on walls. Art. She'd defend. Marker smeared grin disarming. Diaper days yielded to dinosaur roars. Bedtime battles epic. Yet milestones melted us. First steps wobbly to us. Dada dual directed. Preschool plays where they stole scenes as cowboy explorers. My firm crested. National Award for Sustainable Queer Spaces. TEDx talk in Denver. Building bridges from blueprints to hearts. James beamed front row. Whooping loudest. Then celebrated private. Cabin dark but for moonlight. Bodies rediscovering in slow burn. His whispers my architect against skin. James' own crossroads. Elena offered partnership in her expanded ranch, ecotourism arm, leveraging his lore. Boss status, he joked, but eyes searched mine. What if I screw it? You won't, I countered, over pie at her kitchen table. You're the steady one, he signed, diving in, trail maps redrawn. Glamp pods upgraded with his touch star decks for stargazing vows. Elias interned summers. Harper led pony princess camps. Twins helped with chaos. Fall foliage tour de force. Family hike to the ridge. Our first meeting spot. Baskets brimming apples. Cider steaming. Elias proposed to Theo there. Ring pop placeholder. Cheers echoing. Someday real, he vowed. James tearing up beside me. Winter's grip loosened to pandemic echoes. Virtual classes. Masked markets, but we adapted. Online story hours for the center. James' virtual rides drawing urban kids to horses. Isolation knit us. Board games by stove. Fort building marathons. Love letters slipped under doors. Spring surged. Harper's bat mitzvah adapted. Eclectic. She danced aura with abandon. Speech fierce. Family's my superpower. Elias graduated valedictorian. Speech weaving our tale. From thunder to roots. Thanks. Dads. Summer send-off. Elias to Ithaca. U-Haul stuffed. Theo tagging for orientation. Tearful driveway. Hugs bruising. Call weekly, James gruffed. Love you, kid. Love you more. Engine rumble faded, leaving hollow. Harper stepped up, wrangling twins with teen aplomb. Her crushes now poetry journals shared shy. Write what scares you, I advised, echoing my own scribbles. Twins started kindergarten, backpacks bulging, hands sweaty in hours. Brave like cowboys, James coached. They charged in, waving by without backward glance, pride and pang twisting. Fall harvest, Elena's wedding, ranch aglow, vows under arches of antler and light. We danced, James twirling me slow, then kids in whirl. 20 years, he toasted later, under stars. And countinda, winter wonder, family ski trip to Jackson, slopes slick, hot cocoa mustached. Bonfire confessions, Harper's stage dreams, Rowan's robotics kit, Sage's paint the world manifesto. Life crested, ebbing to reflection. Empty nests loomed, but fuller hearts compensated. James and I stole weekends, camping echoes, tents pitched intimate, reminiscing that first storm. Nothing the same, he'd say, hand in mine. Everything better, humanity's arc, flawed, fierce, forward. We'd carved ours, thunder-forged, love-lit, passing the reins to wild hearts ready to ride.